Today we're taking a look at the Nubia Pad 3D. It's a 3D tablet that uses eye tracking and AI to deliver a glasses-free 3D experience. After seeing so many extremely positive reviews online, I think there is a lot that's been missed out, and no one seems to be mentioning its downfalls, of which there are a few. Now in North America, it's being released as the Untitled Pad, and everywhere else it's going to be the Nubia Pad 3D. And to be honest, I've got very mixed opinions when it comes to this tablet. In terms of the 3D side, I was blown away with how well it works, and even converting some 2D content to 3D it works well. Although the screen is small, the 3D adds a nice amount of depth, and in terms of 3D performance, it's just incredible. In terms of the software and use, however, it almost feels like more of a prototype to me, and you'll have noticed many other people have already released their videos weeks ago, yet mine is a bit later. Now this was because I was hoping for a software update, so I decided to wait. But as of yet, there haven't been any software updates, and there's a few bits that just don't work properly. I also worry that 3D is a thing of the past. It had its boom a long time ago when we had lots of 3D TVs, and we also had consoles like the 3DS, but these days you don't really come across it apart from 3D movies in the cinema and 3D rides at theme park. The 3D market is a bit of a niche space now. When it comes to content, it's something that's going to need everyone to jump on board if you want to get the most from it. To be fair though, the Nubia 3D tab does do a lot more than I was expecting when I received it, so we'll get right into it and we'll start with the camera. The Nubia Pad 3D lets you take 3D photos, and it uses AI to make these into a 3D image automatically. When you're taking the photo, you get a little map, and what you want to do is make sure that the subject is completely white for the 3D. When it's done correctly, it works great, and it gives an image with a nice amount of depth to it along with an okay looking photo. It's a dual 16 megapixel camera, and to be honest, the images are okay, but they're not the best, but the fact they come out in 3D sort of makes up for that lack of quality. Now if you take the photo wrong, however, and the subject is that little bit too close, looking at it just gives you a massive headache, and that's coming from someone who does work on computers all night in the dark, and I don't ever get problems with eye strain. Now next up, we've got the layer player, and not only is this pretty clever in the way that it works, but it's also the thing that really blew me away. When you open up the layer player, you've got content from all of your popular streaming services, and you can pick from this list, but you can actually open any of your favorite videos from lots of different platforms. So if I just show you, I can open up one of my YouTube videos and hit share. If I then choose more, I can select the layer player from the list, and it's going to open it up and then uses AI to convert my 2D video into 3D. Now this works incredibly well and much better than I expected it to. It adds depth to the video, and it actually gets it spot on most of the time. Unfortunately, you guys are not going to be able to see the 3D effect on the video you're watching here, but it does really add the depth to it, and you can use this slider to add more or less of that 3D effect. Now while it does a great job at pulling me away from the background of my video, there is a weird outline, and it's almost like a portrait photo that hasn't detected the edges very well. Hopefully I can get this to come out on the camera, but I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it. I assume this is just down to how the AI performs the conversion, but once I noticed it, I did tend to focus on it a little bit too much. Now I've also had a few problems opening things in the layer player, and sometimes it asks me to enable the 3D effect, but then when I do it, it doesn't work and it's just a 2D image. Now hopefully this is going to be resolved later on with a software update, but as I said, there haven't been any software updates yet. Next up, we've got the layer chat, and this is video calling with 3D conversion, and to be fair to Nubia, it does a cracking job. It just works so well, and it adds the depth, and it's almost like the person on the other end is using a 3D camera just because it's working so well. Well, it's not necessary to have a 3D video chat. It does add that little bit more immersion and makes it enjoyable to use. Next up, we've got the layer viewer, and this is to view 3D models. It comes with plenty on the tablet pre-installed, but you can also add your own. Now again, this works incredibly well. You can zoom in or out, you can rotate the model, and choose how much of the 3D effect you want. Having the model in a 3D space is just incredible, and it's much more interesting than looking at it in 2D. Now the only thing to note here is that it has to be on smaller models, or of course you have to zoom out a lot for the larger ones, because if any of the model goes past the edge of the screen, then it ruins the 3D effect. Next up in the app suite, we've got the layer player, and this is essentially just a media player for photos and videos, and they've included a lot of pre-installed images and videos to test. And I found when it comes to images and videos, the impressiveness simply depends on how well the image works. Some images don't look so good, some look okay, and then some look incredible. I'm finding the ones where the whole subject fits into the display and they've got a plainish background work the best, like these astronauts or these metallic characters here. You can also play videos through it and they work really well. I'd pretty much describe it as watching a 3D film in the cinema, but of course on a much smaller scale and no glasses. Now they included a Layerflix app, which I believe is to purchase and watch 3D movies, but it says it's not available in my country, so I haven't been able to use it. Next up, we've got Layerpix, and this seems to be a place for all of the users to upload and share their 3D pictures. And like I said earlier, the 3D you take with the camera isn't as good as the standard 3D content, and this is no doubt due to the AI conversion and the relatively low quality cameras. It also comes with the Layer App Store to install new apps, but to be honest, this pretty much only has the pre-installed apps and nothing else, although it does have a couple of things like game samples and Layer Dream. Of course, for those of you that want to install your normal apps, you still get the Google Play Store. Layer Dream is an AI image generator, and it of course generates 3D images, and you just type in what you want to see and it creates it. Now, this is kind of cool, but realistically, it's more of a gimmick to me, and it doesn't serve much of a real purpose. Now, when it comes to gaming, it's pretty cool, but again, I'm just seeing this as a gimmick. The shooting game that comes with it is interesting, but in all honesty, while it's impressive, it's not that fun to play, and after a couple of minutes I was bored. We then have a dungeon game, and this is a top-down view, and this is just much more detailed, and I think it highlights a lot more of what is capable with 3D. Even on the 3D bits that are coming out of the display, there is plenty of detail, and the light also shines in your eye in certain bits, but not in a bad way. It's actually very good and adds to the immersion. Now, my problem with the gaming aspect is that there's currently only 2 games in the store. With no other Android tablets having this 3D capability, it's unlikely that we're going to see much development in the 3D game area. Realistically, there isn't ever going to be much development, and we can't expect Nubia or Layer to be creating lots of 3D games. If this was back in 2010, I'd be a lot more optimistic about the future of 3D games, but as I said at the start, the technology does seem to have died off, with everyone focusing on VR when it comes to these 3D experiences. Now, normal games don't get converted into 3D either, so if you're hoping for a 3D gaming tablet, you're out of luck. So with all the built-in apps away, we'll now talk about the device itself. In terms of the design, it's pretty heavy, and it does feel strong and sturdy, so there's no worries there, but the overall design is pretty basic as you can see, so there's not too much else to say. Now we get a 120Hz display with a resolution of 1600 by 2560, but it is just an LCD panel and not an OLED. It comes with 8GB of RAM and a choice of 128 or 256 storage, and it's powered by the Snapdragon 888. Now we've got 2 16MP wide-angle cameras on the rear, but you can only record videos at 1080p at 30 frames a second. And then on the front, we've got 2 8MP wide-angle cameras, and again, they can only record 30 frames a second in 1080p. We've got a 9070 mAh battery, and to be fair, the battery life is good. And another thing worth noting is the 4-speaker system. The sound is incredible, it goes loud with clarity, and it doesn't sound tinny, and it just makes for a much better experience when you're watching media. Now, the thing that troubles me most about this device is the price. It's $1,100, €1,300, or £1,150. When you look at the overall tablet specs, I think you could get a lot more for your money if you went with another tablet like a Galaxy Tab S8. Now, I'm not saying it's a rip-off either, because I assume the 3D technology that's put into this tablet has bumped up the price to where it is. Now, if you're really into 3D and you want a 3D tablet to look at pictures and movies, then this is going to be a great device if you're going to get a lot of use from it. But if 3D isn't your main and only priority, then I don't think it's a good move. You're probably going to get bored of the 3D after a while, and what you've ended up with is a high-priced tablet with older specifications. Now, I don't want to be too harsh here, but as I've mentioned multiple times, 3D just didn't take off, so we can't expect development on it now, and one tablet release is not going to change that. Now, I do like it, and it's incredible at the 3D content, but I don't think I'm ever going to get too much use out of it. But what I might do is build a picture frame around it and try and make a DIY 3D picture frame, and this could showcase photos and videos. Now, of course, I'll make a video on that if I do get around to doing it, but that's pretty much all I've got to say about the Nubia Pad 3D. Now, of course, links are down in the description, and if there's anything I've missed or you've got any questions at all, then just ask them in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, smash a thumbs up. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down twice, and I'll see you guys in the next one.